Hello and good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to this week's new episode of X Vlog Live. I'm your host, Mr. BoomStick XL, and today, ladies and gentlemen, I have the honor, the pleasure, if you will, to sit down with one half of Living Split Screen, your best place on Saturday morning to check out the greatest and latest from not only Pong Soul, but my honored guest, Steel Rain. How the heck are you, sir?
What's going on, brother Boom? Hey, man, it's Mr. Lavrona cut himself in here from the RTS perspective, as I like to say, pulling myself out of the world, pulling in those resources to build up our foundation so we could potentially reach those 3 billion gamers. Boom. And Phil touched on that again in this most recent interview that I see that you want to highlight today. So I think we're going to have a lot of passionate conversation. I appreciate you asking me to be on. And again, I know you kind of gave me the key, but sometimes, you know, life pulls you different ways. So getting that invite is always great to see. I appreciate you, Boom.
Well, it's great to have you here. We certainly appreciate your time. Folks, you're going to get some Halo Infinite multiplayer Season 5, Reckoning as it's known. This is actually the first 2-hour footage that I got. So I'm low ranked and I might be a little rusty. See, unlike other people who will move out when they suck, I leave it in there for perspective. So there are matches where I went 5-12, and there were matches where you'll see I went 18-4. Because the old man still has the skills. Folks, we have a great show. The next 70 minutes, you know, grab your sandwich, grab your breakfast if you're the other side of the world, or your dinner if you are on the other side of the pond, potentially. And let's get ready. We're going to have an amazing talk. We're going to talk specifically about one of the big highlights of the week, and that is the Phil Spencer interview that comes away with the Xbox podcast via Xbox. He had a lot of things to say. We covered really, really good topics last night with Risk It for the Biscuit, who was our special guest on Primetime Gaming. If you missed that, it's up on not only YouTube, but it's available on all of your favorite podcast services around the globe. Just get to it, download it, check it out. It was a great 2-hour conversation. We're going to get into what I think is, for me, the biggest of highlights with Phil Spencer and his interview, and that's the fact that he is looking to not only meet the teams, but he's going to go to these teams with a list of older IPs that he's going to put out there that if anybody wants to work on. He talks about passion, and he specifically says that he does not want to force people or teams to make a game that they're not emotionally invested in. And I think that is phenomenal because we could potentially see a AAA return of something like Prototype, for instance, or like a lot of people in the chat are already talking, true crime. People want to come back in a big way, and a AAA budgeted true crime would be pretty dope, to be honest with you. But we also, folks, are going to have some Halo talk. So for the last 10 or 15 minutes, we could have went live, Steele and I, because we were really just throwing, you know, darts at the wall with a lot of big Halo ideas. And look, folks, I don't get a dime from Microsoft, and I don't do this to get paid, right? I do this because I love gaming. Specifically, I love Xbox gaming. And one thing I love about Xbox gaming is Halo. I have 16 plus days in Halo Infinite. And I'm not slowing down because I just hit this morning level 36 in the battle pass. It only has 50 levels. So I'm nearly done with the battle pass, and I'm going to still play because they have the announcement of the 8 Halo 3 maps that have been remade. And that is dope. Halo 3, one of my favorites up until Infinite, who has now taken first place. But we're going to open up with some Halo talk here before we get into Phil Spencer, folks. Hopefully this, you know, that you have found your way back to Halo. I can tell you that they have really, 343 has really found their footing since the return of Season 3 moving forward. Season 5 is brilliantly done. There is so much stuff that they added. The gameplay is so fast. and the gunplay is just so perfect. I don't even know what to say other than you definitely need to give it a shot. I put my 4 favorite armor cores out there. Got a lot of really good traction. A lot of people really were digging the samurai one, which I think looks crazy good. But Steel,
Yeah.
we were talking, and both of us have these thoughts. Um,
Mhm.
and obviously, Halo. When you think of Halo, everyone immediately equates that to the Master Chief, and why wouldn't it? That's
Of
where we
course. Yeah.
started on the OG Xbox. But there's something to be said about the stories outside of the Master Chief that have yet to be told in video game fashion. And
Mhm.
if there's one thing that I took away from the Coalition's Hive Busters is that stories that are 10 or 15 hours in length for a single player, campaign
Right.
should and can be told not only in Gears, but of course in Halo. You
Mhm.
and I were both thinking about, what about a story of Locke and Team Osiris? What about a side story with these characters? And it's something that needs to be done. Now, one of the things that we both came to the ideology is that multiplayer is more than likely going to be held separately from the single player campaign, which they are, thanks to Special Nick of the Xbox era, currently working on. Now that's going to be on Unreal Engine 5. We don't know if they're going to change any engines. I don't think so because I think Slipspace works perfectly fine. As you can see on the screen, it's gorgeous. There's no reason to change it at this point. I will say though, Steele, I'm interested to get your take on what they should do, especially when you consider, and you said it specifically. Now that they have these Activision studios that have for years backed up Call of Duty, they
Mhm.
could be brought into the fold to help tell a single player story driven Call of like they did with Call of Duty, but Halo. And let's open it up to other characters. Let's get your hot take on this.
Yeah, so it's like as far as Halo's considered, man, Halo has so many different directions that it can go, and it's always had that, right? And I think the biggest downfall to Halo is the lack of expanding the IP into the many different directions. There's been books for Halo for quite some time that haven't been adapted, and it's kind of crazy to think that something that already has a story base to it already has plenty of dialogue in there, and something that I think would be well adapted, especially with it being sci-fi in the way that Halo caught traction. You kind of would have expected Xbox to maybe take advantage of that earlier. But again, like we talked about in the background, behind the scenes, I do think that it was more so because of the lack of development teams to be able to expand the IP out there, right? Sure, you might have had all these ideas, and I wouldn't like to think that we've been the only ones who think about all these different aspects of where they can take it. So now that they do have Activision, and now that just Xbox in totality is 10 times bigger than what it was originally. Again, you go from
44
five
studios in
studios to almost
total.
50.
44
Exactly.
studios, dude. 34 named studios, 10 or 10 plus that are support studios within Infinity Ward and Treyarch.
Mhm.
It's madness, bro.
And that's without you even getting Certain Affinity, which we know Certain Affinity has always
God,
been
that's right.
tied
Yes.
into Halo. So they have that experience, and they're working on something Halo eccentric too that's rumored to be in the Unreal Engine, which I think is why a lot of those rumors about Unreal Slipspace moving into Unreal have been coming up more so, is from those initial rumors with Certain Affinity. And now that we're hearing in the background, again, you mentioned it from Special Nick, that the story more so focused things are also maybe an Unreal. I think there's a lot of credence there that's kind of saying, hey, well, because of what the multiplayer has now become, Halo has evolved, right? It's not what it used to be. There's competition out there, but the one benefit that you do have is the one other game that gave Halo true competition back in the days was Call of Duty. Now you have that in house. So you have your competition now working with you, developing your game, helping on the live service elements. You got Pierre Hines back at the top. I mean, I'm sure I could be saying his name wrong. But it's seemingly the multiplayer is now moving in the right direction. And you see the content dropping in, the cosmetics are looking good. They dropped in full helmet customization through all the different outfits that you can unlock now, through the different armors you can unlock now, which I still don't like the armor system, but it's a whole different thing. It needs to be versatile, and they're working towards that, right? So Halo can continue to be its own livable thing, and if slip space is going to be the environment that you can play in Halo, kind of like it's kind of like Legos essentially, right? It's the Lego version of Halo, and I don't mean that in a negative way, or the Roblox version of Halo, or the Minecraft version of Halo now, where you get your single player experiences over here, and then you want to play multiplayer. Forge is here, all the custom modes are here, everything that you want, the hardcore experience is here. This is where you come. Halo is never going to change. This is how it's going to feel, and you don't have to necessarily always worry about, because that's another big concern that people had. Oh, if they move Halo into Unreal, is it even going to feel the same? Is it like we want the game to still be what it used to be, and it has to evolve, right? You look at Doom, right, and see what those possibilities are, and you look at the Unreal Engine, and you can tie a lot of those strings together, especially when you go back to Unreal Tournament. You know that that's possible to get more graphic, to get more in your face. And I do think that if you're going to continue to tell those Halo stories, whether it's on the Covenant side of things, or the Spartan side of things, the human element, whichever side, you have to intrinsically enhance that experience for people that's really going to be attractive, kind of be that countermeasure to what Sony has done with like the God of Wars, Ghost of Tsushima's, and Horizon. Halo would then become, once again, because we've talked about that, how it's kind of moved out of the, I would say, the top of the pillar, the most important IP to them. I think at that point it would return. Right now, Halo's in a special place for me, at least, because someone as me, who is a fan, who's been playing Halo since 2001. I grew up in the LAN days and have all those fond memories. I'm willing to give a game that has literally given me everything, essentially day one, until we get to about Halo 4 through now. I'm willing to give them some time to get it together, the same way I'm willing to let the Coalition do whatever they need to do with Gear 6, right? These teams have earned those marks, that time, and to be allowed to expand those IPs out. So that's what's kind of my feelings about Halo right now. Season 5, I think, is again, 5 seasons in. I heard things started changing in the right direction during 3. But 5 seasons in, it's again, you're talking about almost a year and a half later, not longer from release, taking this long to get in there, 2 years after release, honestly, because some of the seasons were pushed out. It's walking into its form, and that's what's special about Halo. It's always going to be able to fit in the heart, fit in those spaces, and have those ups and downs, and hopefully it continues that track of going up. So
look, I'll say this. First of all, shout out to Spider-Man 356 in the chat. He's always here, so thank you so much for the support, brother. He says Alok is dead, right? Is he though?
There's no confirmation on that.
We have zero confirmation. Yes, the dude, the lieutenant, is wearing Locke's helmet as a trophy. Does that
Locke could have got away?
Is that indicative of him being dead? You certainly could paint that picture, but until I see a body, well, like you know,
at least address it, right?
We have to see whether or not he is in fact dead. I will say this though, if there's one thing that, and real quick, Spider-Man, I know you said that it's not using Unreal Engine 5. That is incorrect. I have a story that I literally just pulled. It is from Fandom Wire, and they have confirmed that 343 Industries has reportedly not only begun work on the new Halo, which that has been confirmed by Special Nick of the Xbox era, and that the next Halo game will in fact use the Unreal Engine 5. That has been not a rumor. That is a fact. That's what they're doing with it, and that's perfectly fine. Slip space can stay multiplayer. They've gotten it to a form and fashion that is brilliant. Halo Infinite multiplayer is brilliance on the screen. Now I know
Yeah,
there's some people in here
it's
that say, "Oh,
plays
as
well.
a
Looks
Destiny
good.
player, they find the Destiny to be better." You know, I
It's a
like
different.
potatoes. You
I'm
like
a Destiny player
potatoes.
too. I'm a Destiny player too, Boom. So
So
it's like I can see some of that, and I've spent just as much time in Destiny that I've spent in Halo,
me too.
honestly. So it's like for me, they're still very different games, and honestly, if you really want to dive deeper in that comparison, Destiny just feels like a more fantasy version of Halo. I mean, at the end of the day, the enemies, especially on the more story element side of things, the enemies that fight damn near the same. The approach to combat is darn near the same. Outside
Mhm.
of you don't have to constantly pick up different weapons and cycle. You have a set weapon that you use. Where Halo, it's back in it's tied back into those old school days. Hey, run through there, you're running out of ammo, pick up a different gun, use this here,
Yep.
pick up a rocket launcher. Oh, now here's a hammer. You know, it wants you to be versatile in this gameplay because Spartans are versatile overall. And I feel like they did that, they've always done that really well. And I saw somebody mention that they felt like 343 was too focused on multiplayer. I don't know if you missed the picture, maybe you've been out of the loop for some time. Halo's always been about the multiplayer. I mean,
And,
yes, the
okay,
story is important, but
since 2, it's been
multiplayer is
yeah.
what has carried the IP. And yes, strong story has helped it for sure. But that's not where a lot of the stories come from as far as when you get with your group of friends and you talk about those old land days or you talk about your experiences online and all the sweaty times that you might have had. So yeah, at least for me. At least for me.
Listen, I kind of want to just talk about this because one of the things I find incredibly intriguing about ABK isn't Call of Duty for me personally.
Mhm.
What it I'm looking at a much broader picture, and it's the studios. Now, many of the studios, even places like Toys for Bob, who is notorious for bringing us Spyro, and Crash Bandicoot and things of that nature. And of course, I want them to do a banjo or at least even do a kart racer. Take the bones of like Crash Team Racing and just throw a bunch of Microsoft owned characters in there. I think that's what they need. They need to address the fact that Xbox does not have enough family representation. They need
Oh yeah,
platformers.
they do.
They need games that are more family driven. A kart racer would be dope. And I think it's an underutilized genre,
Well,
especially on
mhm.
Xbox. Yeah,
the,
Steele.
the only thing I was going to say about kart races, and I don't want to say that like, oh, we shouldn't have them, but I just feel like there has to be something off about them because we've gotten Disney Speedstorm that's free to play. You have the Crash Bandicoot Nitro Racing, I believe, the new one that came out. And I don't know if they've necessarily, and there's some other ones out there too. I don't know if they've necessarily been able to hold a candle in comparison to like Mario Kart, for an example.
That's
And I
because I
don't
think
know
that
how you evolve
they're
that.
designed in a vacuum, though. You know what I'm saying? Like
Think so?
Nintendo puts such care into Mario Kart. It's you're onto something, Steel. It's maybe that is the reason why Mario Kart 8 Deluxe exists, and instead of coming out with a sequel, they released 40 old school maps
Yeah,
redone
exactly.
in
Mhm.
the fashion and form of what of
The new
what
Mario Kart, yeah.
Mario yeah where with the current Mario Kart.
Right.
It's I don't know. You make a great point.
Yeah, man. So it's just like I don't know how they would end up implementing that. I do agree with you though. They definitely need some more family oriented things, and I do think they have that. Though these days it's really hard to determine what's going to work and what's not because Spyro and Crash aren't the same today as they were for us back in the day, right?
Right.
They Spyro and Crash came out in a generation where 3D gaming was becoming really prevalent, and seeing them on screen was like, man, look what is possible now. I can run around with a dragon and breathe fire and headbutt and fly a little bit. And Crash was like, oh, I could spin. We went from looking blocky to now, PlayStation 2 gen now, and even today, where it's just like they've elevated and constantly improved on it. And I don't know if it's gotten the recognition that it deserves or how you consistently make it more appealing outside of playing those old Sony tactics of, hey, Sony, Now we own Crash now and being outside of the Sony corporations yelling at them with a megaphone. I think that would be the best way to come back with it.
That's great. I
It come
love
back
it.
with a commercial and say, "Look who owns who now," or something like that. I think that'd be really cool.
That would be pretty dope.
But
Well, I don't know
that,
if you saw my newest picture on Twitter.
yeah,
It's
I did.
Crash Bandicoot wearing an Xbox gold chain like King does, which I thought was
Yeah,
pretty
I saw
dope, to
that.
be honest with you. I created that. That actually took a little while because I had to piece the chain together, surprisingly enough. But look, getting back to Halo, as much as I think it's important to continue to tell Chief's story, because
Mhm.
we only know a few stories. There's only been a handful of games. Yes, he has a 20 plus year history, but Halo 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You had ODST, which is a side story. The potential, folks, to tell other stories in Halo that do not involve Master Chief will work. And a perfect example of that is seeing how Hivebusters was received by people who are fans of Gears. Had
Mhm.
literally nothing to do with any of the characters. Yes, there was a family
Oh,
member in
yeah.
there, right? There was the daughter of
Culture, yeah.
Coltrane, but
Mhm.
that's the extent of it. She's a scientist. She's doing her own thing, right? Yes, there's a connection, sure, but it was such a different game with three different characters that you grew to really care about what happens. So
Mhm.
I'm going to throw out a scenario. You folks might have heard this before, and I kind of want to then go turn the mic over to Steele and see if he has a story he'd love to see told. See, for me, this is my idea. And I'm saying this, I'm putting it out to the ether, not because I want to be hired. I'm way too old for that. And I'm retired. I want to stay retired. So I'm gonna just keep doing podcasting. But I know people from Xbox listen. So here's my pitch. Okay. This could be an 8 to 10 hour game, right? Just imagine this. One of the stories that I think most of us are wanting to be told, more so than what was in Halo 2, is the flood. Now, the flood are terrifying. It's Halo's version of zombies, right? We know that they were lab created on Zeta Halo. That's in the books, folks, right? I'm not making that stuff up. And wouldn't it be pretty dope if a story about a lone scientist that somehow survived the outbreak of the flood in the labs? He's a scientist. He's not a warrior. He is a scientist. Picks up a gun, picks up a pulse rifle from a dead Marine, grabs his sidearm, and he has called in the U.S. The Marines to come do a personnel pickup, an emergency pickup. He's got to get the F out of Dodge, and you have to make it to the end of the whatever the wherever it is. You have to get there, and there's a survival horror aspect to it. It's dark, it's gritty. You don't have a lot of bullets. You're not a Spartan. You're a scientist, right? You put on one of the Marines' gears just to have some sort of protection, and you tell that story. 8 to 10 hours. It's a single player campaign, no multiplayer, folks. That's it, single player. You pick it up 8 to 10 hours, 12 hours the max. You put that
Mhm.
out. That could be made. These types of stories, Steele, you and I believe could be done on a yearly basis, the same way Call of Duty was done. They could have logistically a dedicated single player 343 Industries studio do create this single player campaign, and then of course have help from these other studios that have for years helped with Call of Duty. This could work, and what this would do is give people their fix for the Halo single player that we all know and love and want, and at the
Mhm.
same time allow for the big budgeted AAA Master Chief story to be told, as well as this multiplayer being updated on a monthly basis. I just think there's literally it should be printing money, to be honest with you. I don't know. What do you think, Steele?
Yeah, I mean, you definitely come with a good story there. I like your idea on that for sure. Going back to Zeta Halo, that's something that I've always been interested to see, and I thought that they were going to touch on some of those things, especially after seeing how they did Halo Reach. And that was another magnificent game, in my opinion, during that time, and how they kind of went back before Chief and introduced you to the Noble Six and the team, and really created those heartfelt moments with characters that you had never met before, and you weren't even Chief in that moment, so it gave you a different perspective on the situation that was going on. For a story for me that I would like to see, and it's going to be for me, it's the most obvious because it's the one that I saw. And it's because I am familiar with the books. So, and it's going to be a form of a sequel to ODST, leading into many other games, mainly because the ODST that you play in that game is Buck, and Buck is someone who ends up going through the Spartan program and becomes part of Team Osiris, right next to Locke and the crew. So, and the thing about Team Osiris in the whole special ops organization known as ONI, they have a whole dark side and mission structure that is more akin like your spec ops of, of our own government, where they go on these deep dark missions. Maybe they don't have all the information, but in this aspect, you can kind of imagine it because there's a lot more on the line. You're dealing with multiple Spartans in this crew, so I mean, you always have a team around you. Locke's leading everything. Buck was an extremely instrumental part to that. His relationships with Oni and his ties in, and his other relationships that kind of branched out from there into other things that he became a part of. But even before he became part of Team Osiris, that's the other thing that I don't want to just skip over, because Buck has such a rich history just himself, and can be, I'm not saying that he necessarily has to be Master Chief or John 117, but he definitely can be a support character to introduce other elements of Halo that we already have in existence. And just introducing that, if you did an ODST 2, and at the end of the game, you kind of get introduced to the Spartan program. Maybe you do some things, and then boom, at the end of it, you see that they start doing the procedures to make you a Spartan, and then boom, the next announcement that we get after that a year later is a Team Osiris, or the Adventures of Buck, for lack of a better name of it, or whatever. I think that would be the best way and best route, and actually one of the more attractive routes to go. And I also think that if they did that, that maybe that's how you start playing with the third person perspective of Halo, right? Well, yeah, for ODST, the first one was first person. It was more akin to traditional Halo, but we really want this to stand out, be different, and be its own thing. Go on your own adventures, make something a little bit more gritty than even Halo was, because it has that high potential to be that, and then take those adventures from there. So that'll be my main direction that I would want Halo to go. Just because it just gives you so much backstory, and then up to Team Osiris, you get introduced back to Master Chief again in that moment with him and Locke, and then you can kind of reenact things from their perspective and continue again a whole different branch story path. And now that we know that they're also trying to figure out whatever the storyboard is for the rest of the game, I don't know if they're going to continue what Halo Infinite did. I liked what it presented. Is it the greatest thing in the world? No. Is it as strong as 1 through 3? No. But I'm also somebody that did like 4 and 5, right? I didn't think that they were bad directions. I loved those games. So I don't know. I think all the signs tell me right now that 343 is seemingly getting their heads on straight. They're moving in the right direction. Everybody at the top of the food chain knows has an idea. I'm not going to say knows. They have an idea of the exact direction that they want Halo to go. And I'm confident. I'm feeling more confident in their direction. So as we get these updates.
Yeah, look, again, maybe the Halo subject is a sore one for some people, and that's fine. But Halo is Xbox. Xbox is Halo. and it's going to be important for the brand, and it's going to be important for us, the fans who continue to play Halo and find it incredibly important, an important aspect of the brand to have a triple A experience be delivered. Again, just imagine this right now. In my personal opinion,
Mhm.
Xbox is hitting on all cylinders in a way they haven't done since the Xbox 360. They are winning. Now, granted, that maybe they're not winning in console sales.
I mean,
And
that's not what it's about, right?
but that's ultimately not what gaming is about these days. And if you can add everything that we know is coming to first party, South of Midnight, Clockwork Revolution, the next Forza Horizon, Gears 6,
Mhm.
Senua Hellblade 2. I mean, there is literally so much on the way. It almost seems unbelievable that we cannot experience a triple A combat evolved level experience for
Yeah.
Master Chief and the lore of Halo. I think there are so many stories that need to be told that don't involve Chief. I think that they can be these 8 to 10 hour, 15-hour experiences that are just focused on single player. That's it. It's a single player game. That's it. Now, if you want to involve, you want to bring firefights, leave that to the multiplayer, which of course Firefight is coming back. I cannot wait
Mhm.
for that. I think there is definitely a world, and again, I don't know because I'm just a podcaster. What the hell do I know? But I can tell you that in my personal opinion, it makes more dollars and cents to keep Halo multiplayer attached, but not really to the franchise. Let
Right.
let the multiplayer
Let it live.
live on its own. It's already a free to play game. You can't take that back. Leave it where it is. Keep doing the updates. Keep coming out with the armor cores.
Mhm.
You know, did anyone spend any money? Well, guess what? I did, which I do every season. I buy the $44 package. That gives me all the coins. I do it for every season. I'm not a whale because that's the only thing I buy, but I there were some things I wanted the battle pass, which I paid for. And you know what's even crazier? I didn't even spend any real world money. I cashed in points, my Bing
Oh,
points, which I
there you
do
go.
every day. So there you go. So I got it technically for free. Um, but there is a world, folks, that we need a strong story driven single player experience to come back, whether that's Master Chief or side stories. I don't care what you do, but there is literally no rhyme or reason why we can't get a new 8 to 10 hour campaign 1 to 2 every 1 to 2 years. I'm sorry, there's just it's there there's no world that I want to live in that does not tell me a Halo single player story. Kay Asante, I know you're listening, and he wants to get back into multiplayer, but he's still soured that Halo Infinite ended, and we're not getting any DLC. We're not getting anything, which is crazy to me. But hopefully, someone from Microsoft takes this idea. Don't give me any credit. I don't give a shit. I don't care about credit. I just want to play the game. Give me a survival horror. Let the team, and this is what's great about Phil Spencer. We're going to get to him in a second, what he had to say regarding older franchises for Activision, which is what we're going to segue into.
Mhm.
But let Phil go to 343 and say, who wants to tell this type of more circumvented, smaller circled story? And let
Mhm.
them go freaking crazy. Why not? So, I don't know. Again, I could talk about Halo all day long. Maybe it's not your bag, it's my bag. And hopefully you didn't unsub because we're talking about Halo, because I get that a lot. Hey, boom, I unsubbed your channel because you were talking about Halo. Well, you're lost, Charlie Brown. What can I tell you? Go listen to some hate content because you're not going to get that here. But with that said, let me catch up on the super chats and then we will get into what Phil Spencer had to say. And you know something? He said something that I did not catch, and I know people are talking about it. We're gonna man, there's so much to talk about. My God, there's so much good Halo news. I mean, so much Xbox news. Steel, did you see the new commercial?
Yes.
It's dope.
Powerful
Commercial. But you know what? Let me get into my likes and stuff because I got to give him credit. Because if I don't, I'm gonna feel like a complete heel. There is a specific part towards the end of the commercial where she's in front of two doors,
Mhm.
and the door to her left she looks into, and she sees a younger her sitting there with with the like reddish pinkish hair.
Mhm.
And I didn't know, I didn't equate this at all. It was Hazador Gaming. Hazador, I love you, brother. You're not following me. I'm not upset, but I'm shocked because you're amazing and I always push your stuff. So throw me a follow, brother. That would be super dope. He put out there that if you look very closely, he's playing an Xbox 360 and Call of Duty is on the screen.
Mhm.
And that is dope. That's all I'm going to say. Great commercial, powerful imagery. I saw some people comparing it to like a Matrix kind of a feel to it. It did. It certainly did. Very well done. Shout out to Team Xbox that just continues to do. Think about this for a second. And this is no slander, Steele. This is no disrespect to
Talk about it.
Sony. Spider-Man 2 releases tomorrow. I cannot wait to play. I am so out of my mind excited to play this game because I'm a Spider-Man stan. I make no apologies for it. Insomniac and that Insomniac team and Ted Price, some of my favorite in the business. Sorry. I love what they do over there.
Mhm.
No one is even talking about it. People are talking about Xbox. People are talking about Phil Spencer. People are talking about ABK and Call of Duty. And it's crazy. That is how powerful Xbox has become, where even a AAA 90 meta game is not being talked about by major publications. And all you hear in the community is the talk of Xbox. Pretty crazy to me. But this
Mhm.
is where, folks, you're going to see the turn of the tide. I'm telling you, they have market share leadership today, October 19th. I am telling you, in 12 months' time, you're going to start to see the ship. They're going to start to lose their grip. And I can guarantee you're going to see it by next holiday. When Call of Duty is in Game Pass, and that's on every Xbox being sold, whatever that may look like, you're going to see the normies turn the head from PlayStation to Xbox. Mark my words. Timestamp this. But I do want to let me just catch up on the super chats, brother, and we will get into the Phil Spencer comments. First of all, Jacob Novick dropped a very generous $2 super chat and says, "I think Xbox already in talks to buy studios." Yes, that is a fact. Phone calls have been made the minute this deal was signed. And to be honest with you, I'm sure conversations were had even before the deal was signed to get ready to make some acquisitions. I don't think they're announced until next year. January, I think we get 4 new acquisitions in studios. I think Crystal D is one of them. I think Eidos Montreal is another. I don't know who else. I mean, you can pick whatever you want in there. Iowa Interactive is a possibility. There's quite a few studios. Iron Galaxy, in my personal opinion, has already been purchased. They announced a couple of months ago that they are working on a 10-year anniversary for Killer Instinct. They also said that they're going to be working on the brand for the next decade. That tells me personally that they are invested and that they are, in fact, going to be making Killer Instinct. Jess Corden did a story which I was supposed to talk about the beginning of the week, and it just got lost in translation. I'm going to
Mhm.
talk about it tomorrow on Breakfast with Boom. He seems to think that there's going to be a lot of big characters from ABK, as well as other studios making their appearance in this fighter. I love Killer Instinct. You know that already. But Drawn TJ drops a $2 super chat and says a mode in Call of Duty where Halo is in and vice is in it and vice versa. I mean, why not? Why can't you tell Elseworld stories? They do it in comics. They could do it in video games. Double X Wolverine Double X drops a very generous $2 super chat and says, "I need Arbiter to return." Yes, we do. I'd love to see a single player Arbiter story. How dope would that be? Pretty freaking dope.
Super dope.
Drawn TJ drops not one but two steel additional super chats. The first one of $5. He says they need to make an engine like Forge for all IPS for the gamers to make maps and stories. Yeah, I see that's a fantastic point. Forge is something really special, and we're starting to see it. I don't know. I don't think I have any footage here. I got some Forge maps that I played on that are just like on another level.
Nice.
Yeah. There's one that seems to be like in Japan. It's a whole compound, and it's all Japanese inspired. It's gorgeous. I suck at the map because there's a lot of pitfalls where you fall into the water and die, and I hate that. But it's really good. His second super chat of $2 says do spin-offs, but they need a story. They need co-op 2 people. I personally think, and again, this is just me. I want them. If you want co-op, let that be your traditional Halo, whatever it's going to be next, your AAA Halo. I don't want that for the story-driven stuff. I just don't. I want to take a buck, like a Halo 3 ODST scenario. And I mean, I guess shouldn't be a big deal to have co-op, but I really like the idea of it just being single player, story driven and focused. That's me. Maybe I want to get some booze for that. That's fine. But I think that there's a world where you can have your multiplayer, you can have your co-op, your 4-player co-op, your traditional co-op in the big games. Let these stories be told through a single lens as well as a single player. That's just my take on it. Michael Mooney. What's up, Michael? How you doing, brother? He drops a very generous £5 super chat and says, why not just release Forge for campaign? They are working on that right now as we speak. I think that that is gonna come to Forge, and some single player content is going to be told through the community. And if that's the case, I am there for it. I would love that. We have Markman05 drops a very generous $5 super chat and says, with Spider-Man 2 and Mario getting 90s, do you feel Xbox needs better games, better quality? Absolutely not. Starfield should be a 90. We know why Starfield's not a 90, because there's a corrupt media that has a real hard-on for anything Xbox. I'm going to tell you this right now. The current shitty media, and that's not everybody, okay? I'm talking about the IGNs and the Kotakus and the GameSpots that are like your effing Inquirers that tell ridiculous stories. That is your gaming media. That's not every gaming media. Windows Central exists. VGC exists. There's many places where I get my news from that I trust, and I appreciate the opinions that they're not using hate mongering to sell their brand, like we've just seen with IGN and GameSpot, who, by the way, put out 23 different tweets about how they gave Starfield a 7 because they're just pieces of it. POS. Sorry, that's just what they are. They will eventually bend the knee, and I am telling you, watch how they review Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3. It is already a 1.5 in the negative before the game is even out. It's going to be folks. I don't have a crystal ball here. I'm just a knucklehead podcaster. I am telling you, this is going to be the worst reviewed Call of Duty in a decade. Mark my words. Because, yeah, I think it is. Not because the game's going to suck. Not because the game's going to be phenomenal. I think it's going to be the worst reviewed from IGN, who came out and said, consolidation is destroying the industry, and you know what? There's going to be ramifications if Bethesda games are exclusive. A 7 is ramifications, folks. Sorry, that's just what it is. But we'll see. They're eventually going to bend the knee because Microsoft is going to be so big and they're going to put out so many bangers that they're just going to have to. And to be honest with you, I know they won't because they're the good guys. And this is where I go off the path. Me personally, I would stop taking the calls of IGN because Microsoft does not need them. They're a big conglomerate, but they're also becoming very irrelevant. Many people in this chat, in this community, unsubscribed from them because of their ridiculous shenanigans.
Right.
So, I mean, listen, take it for what it's worth. We also have Spartan Ghost 17 drops a very generous £2 super chat and says, "Hi guys, played Starfield and it was disappointing." Okay, I hear you. Listen, if it's not your
Oh wow.
bag,
Okay.
listen.
That's fair.
Doesn't make your point any less valid. You think it's disappointing? Super cool. I get it. It's not for everybody. It's my game of the year. No surprise.
Mine too.
It's one of my favorite games in Bethesda as a whole, and the close second is Oblivion, which was always my favorite for decades. So if it's not your bag, I get it, brother. I appreciate the super chat and thank you so much for the honesty. Listen, there's a lot to play. You don't need to play Starfield. There's literally so much. So no harm, no foul there. Steel, let's talk about Phil Spencer. This is I didn't expect this, to be honest with you. I know a lot of people are citing that it was a controlled environment.
Mhm.
I mean, why should he go into the Shark Tank? Does he have to swim with the great whites in order for it to be a relevant interview? Sure. Did he know the questions that were coming? Absolutely. Were they staged? No. Phil Spencer has never staged questions. I don't know. Call me crazy, but just a couple of months ago, or in the middle of the year when Redfall came out and took a shit live on the air for everyone to hate on, he went
Mhm.
on Kind of Funny and took all of the stones and arrows flinged at him, and it wasn't even his responsibility. It was Pete Hines that dropped the ball, but he
Mhm.
took all the arrows for it because he is the head of Microsoft Game Studios. So my takeaway, at least for me, because my glass is always half full rather than being half empty, is that he told me, as a fan of long gone IPs like True Crime, like Crash, like Prototype, like Singularity, these are games that need to find their way into modern gaming.
Mhm.
And he told us that he's going to take the time to introduce himself to all of these new teams, find out what they're interested in making, and present a short list of games that they're considering bringing back and allow them to create the games that they want to create. Steel, to me, that is the mark of an incredible leader. Again, I'm not blowing smoke up his ass, but I'm a big fan of him. I had the pleasure of meeting him last year, and he is who we thought he was, an absolute accommodating gentleman.
Mhm.
I'm excited. Let's get your hot take on this, man.
Yeah, the Phil interview was extremely special to me because I feel like Phil continues to reiterate the type of person that he is, or at least to the community or the people that are watching. Because there's time and time again in it. And look, I know these people work for big corporation. I know Phil's not my friend. I'm not looking for him to be. But it is very apparent to me that he does care about the industry, that he cares about his job, that he wants to see Xbox grow. Whether you want to say, oh, he's just doing that for Microsoft and he's doing it to save face and however you want to spin that needle, right? I'll leave that completely up to you. The fortunate thing for us, though, is that a lot of the things that are getting put into motion, especially with this Activision Blizzard deal coming in, is literally because of him, right? He's lit the path and showed that there is a different way to do business in the gaming industry. There are more important things. Like he made the point in an interview to say, um, my business is to give people access wherever they want that access, right?
Indeed.
To reach more gamers, right? To reach the 3 billion quote unquote, that he even mentioned in an interview again, that that's the goal, right? To reach people on their devices. And he started when he started talking about mobile, and I've seen people kind of standoffish about that as well. And ladies and gentlemen, I'm here to tell you, as our technology becomes more advanced, it only makes sense. And again, I know everybody's not going to play this way, but it is not hard for me to fathom a future very soon next 10 years, for an example, where you could take your phone, whether you're cloud gaming, whether it's native, whatever, it may be 1080p, where the new standard for 1080p is off of your phone, maybe hooked up to your TV. That's the way that you could play now with the controller connected, Bluetooth directly to your phone. You just pull out this $1,000 device. You're already paying top dollar for a lot of the devices that you have in your pocket, in your hand, that you buy for your relatives. And it's only going to become more advanced. Like, we have to look at the market. We have to look at how AI is advancing things. Things like this exist. Cloud infrastructure exists, maybe not for the reasons that a lot of us are understand it so far. Like, oh, I just access some service, and oh, if I got good internet, it works. If it doesn't, if I don't, then oh, I'm just out of luck. And that doesn't seem very enticing and customer service friendly, and doesn't make me want to jump into the ecosystem. But it might if it's 15, 18 bucks a month for the ultimate subscription of that service, and you can literally have access to all of your content, no matter if you're on your phone, laptop, what system that you're on, as long as it gives you access to Xbox services, you'll be put into that ecosystem. And matter of fact, because the numbers of Starfield came out this week, and for Game Pass, I think the numbers
Number
for Starfield
one,
tell
baby.
a huge story, mainly because the numbers for Starfield tell a huge story for me, because I feel like it proves a point. Time and time again, we also hear people say, oh, well, Game Pass is just a sinkhole of money. There's no first-party games that go in there and make any money. I don't get the business strategy of it. You're not supporting the devs, this, that, and the other thing. But then you have a game like Starfield that's released on multiple platforms. And sure, if you have it on Xbox, you can jump into the service and play it that way. You know what you can also do on Xbox? You can still buy the game.
Indeed.
Right? And that was
at a discount, no less.
Exactly. And that was another point that Phil made during the interview too, where he was just like, look, it's all about giving people the option, right? You can subscribe to Game Pass or you can buy your games. It doesn't really matter to us how you access our ecosystem or how you enter the ecosystem, as long as you're playing whatever games that you're looking for, as long as you have that access. And that's only going to become stronger over time. Internet's going to become better over time. Tech is going to become over time, mind you, as long as things don't get too crazy with some of the things that are happening across the world. But if everything goes right as is intended, there is such a valid future, but also unproven future, which is also why the Activision Blizzard King deal was important, because Activision was in a place where they needed help, right? And again, you could say, oh, they could have dug themselves out of the hole. They could have did whatever. Call of Duty is making this much. Sure, you could justify all those things. But like the saying goes, you have to be willing to be bought to get bought, right? That's not like, I know like a lot of times people like have this conversation, their opposite side of the fence is, oh, well, you just can't go and buy everything. But that's not what happened.
That's not real. That's not real life business. That's if you're sitting in the classroom, like, I don't know, Lena Khan, and you are a professor and you're trying to equate real world economics with what you're trying to put on a paper, which is why she failed. And if you have that ideology, you're going to fail in business. Real business happens in the trenches.
Right. Exactly. And it really does. And especially, I saw a light on Phil. And again, people can take this how they want, but me being somewhat aware of psychology and mannerisms and paying attention to how people speak. And again, he does have good training in that, but there's also, especially because I grew up in sales too, you can see telltale signs no matter how good somebody is at something, whether they are really passionate about what they're talking about or not. Right. And a lot of what I've gotten from Phil has been extremely consistent he's
very earnest in his answers.
Exactly. Yeah. And I feel like, again, this was another earnest conversation from him, because it was like, you could, at least for me, I could feel like he jumped over that hurdle. Like it was like okay, boom, that's done. Now what? Right. And that's why he wanted to make sure people know, hey, I'm flying out to these places. I want to check in and see what's going on, especially off the heels of Redfall, Boom. Like, why else would he get on this Xbox podcast, say that, look, I'm going to these places. I want to know what these teams are doing. I want to make sure that they're working on something that is that they're passionate about. Of course, he's going to make sure that they're timely and that things are probably in line somewhat. Because again, he does have a business to run at the end of the day that he is the head of. And I'm pretty sure he's also tired of taking lashes that aren't necessarily his to take, right? So again, he dropped a lot of powerful points. Another funny point for me that he dropped out there too is that people think that he has training for the job that he has, and he's like, I don't have the training. I'm learning every day. I'm familiar. I'm just a passionate gamer who loves this industry, and I have these visions. And again, calling back to his team, as like he always does, and saying a lot of this wouldn't be possible without the people around me. It's not just me, although I understand it comes back to me, but it's about the people that we put around us. It's about our vision. Everything's aligned. So I felt really, if anything, I've become to feel more confident with what the direction that Xbox is going, especially as someone that's been invested in their ecosystem since 2001, right? So, and been involved with Microsoft even before that. So, in this area, at least for my hobby, my passion, I'm not in a doom and gloom state. I don't feel like the industry is gonna die when Xbox gets Creative Assembly, or if Xbox gets WB, or if Xbox gets Sega, or like, I don't think that that's going to hurt anybody, because the point has been made. We are not here to exclude people, though. Because when people keep talking, I've seen this is Phil. This is like the fourth time I've seen him do it, heard him do it. Is when people say, "Oh, that other platform," where he exclusively makes sure to say, "Oh, you mean PlayStation, right?" That's what we're talking about, because that's the other platform.
Very pointed. Yes, absolutely. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So it's, for me at least, as somebody who is like, I like that fire. I feel like that's the fire that he's displaying right there. Look, we're not here to play games. We had all this information that came out during these deals. You saw me in a suit and tie. Like, that's we got things.
He said he actually said, had me laughing, because that would be the same to me. I'm always in jeans and a t-shirt. That's just what I wore a uniform for 21 years. I ain't doing it anymore. He said I had to dig in the back of my closet to get the suit. I mean, that's pretty cool, man. He is the six-figure dude, maybe even more than that.
Oh, no, he's definitely making more than that.
You know what I'm saying? I mean, and definitely. He just came out and said, I had to dig in the back of my closet for the suit. Who freaking says that? Phil Spencer says that, and I think that's dope.
You can tell the type of person he is, man. At least for me. And again, I'm not here to idolize anybody. I'm not here to say, oh, you need to believe in the vision or believe where gaming is going. But again, there's been plenty of cries out about the physical thing. Things are moving more digital, and we should continue to cry out and speak out on things that we don't necessarily like. But I'm not myself finding too many negatives for the gaming industry in the current direction. And I feel I'm not going to say proud. That's kind of weird. I don't work for Xbox. I don't work for Microsoft, but I do feel supported.
As a fan, you have every right to be excited. You know what I'm saying? Right. And you see the vision. Look, I'm watching, Clobreel had put out a tweet thanking Phil Spencer for the
shout out,
which I thought was pretty dope.
Special.
That's incredibly special. And what's interesting is in this clip, he has Xbox first party studios in 2017. And there is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. They had 6 studios in total, one of which was global publishing. So technically 5 singularity studios. But what he has, one of the things that he said, and I think it kind of goes right on point to how you're saying he's a passionate guy. He's here for the long haul. He's going to these teams. He wants to see what they want to work on. They do have a short list of games that they want to bring back. He said this. Shout out to Everborn Saga who dropped this into our DM for Primetime Gaming. And it's simplistic in its nature, but the substance is extremely powerful and should be very telling for you as an Xbox fan. He says this, folks. I'm more excited about being here than I've ever been. Now, he's been with the company 20 plus years, folks. Okay. He's been the head of Xbox since 2017. So I just want this to kind of sink in for a hot second. 2017, they had 5 named studios along with global publishing, right? Consider that a studio. Okay, fine. It's 6. 6 studios in 2017. This is one guy,
Mhm.
right? Now, I'm not saying he put everything on his back, but he saved the brand. People don't give him enough credit for that. Post E3 2018 to now,
Mhm.
they have a total of 34 name studios and 44 plus studios, including support studios.
Mhm.
That is a 5-year block, Steele. 5 years, he has quadrupled the content that they could potentially put out. It's crazy. But
Yeah, it's definitely the definition of insanity, man. Like it's at least the rate that it's moving at, and seemingly they've been able to handle it. And again, not everybody's going to see it. Not everybody's going to think that putting out all these different games and them not hitting the, I guess, the same marks that they see Sony hitting, from a quality bar. That's not the point. There's supposed to be that variety there. Not
yep,
everything is going to hit. We live in a completely different era. Games are going to come and go. Again, Fortnite is starting to kind of trend off. Maybe it could be the end of what is expected of them. Again, it's still the strongest IP for online gaming that we currently have in our space. So it's not going to go anywhere anytime soon. But obviously, things are moving and changing. So I like seeing the way things are playing out.
listen, at the end of the day, I say this as Xbox fans, you have to be enthralled with the direction of the brand.
Mhm.
We see, and this is the thing. I pulled a story originally because Colt Eastwood had put out a graphic,
Mhm.
which is incredibly telling. And I love Colt, and Colt's a
Got
good
it, got it.
friend of mine, great friend of the community. Where it was on the left hand side, 19 first party games versus what Sony is doing, and it's 9. And
Mhm.
most of those games are gas games and games that are unproven that are probably most of them are going to fail. Spider-Man was one of them that comes out tomorrow. And we're going to talk about that specifically tomorrow on Breakfast at Boom, the roadmap. You cannot say with confidence that Sony has you covered for the next 3 to 4 years. Hell, you don't even know what's coming out next year. Then next year could very well be what we saw in 2023. And if you're signing off on that, then you need to be removed as leader because that's crummy. I'm sorry, that's not a roadmap. That's garbage.
Right.
And Microsoft was called out for it in 2022, and rightfully so because they had a terrible, absolutely abysmal 2022. And Phil Spencer knows it because he talks about it all the time. He doesn't shy away from it. Yeah, we sucked. We had everything delayed. That's such is life. But look where
Mhm.
they are today. That's all I can say. Look, this has been a great, solid 60 plus minute
Amazing.
show. Thank you so much for checking us out. Steele, let me catch up on these last couple of super chats that we
Let's
got
do it.
here, and then we'll get everyone out of here and you can enjoy the rest of your day. But don't forget, tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, I'll be sitting down with the guys from Breakfast at Boom, and we have a lot to get into. A lot of really, we got some original content that we're going to talk about, and some, of course, current news that has made this way this week. Mario Wonder is out tomorrow. Spider-Man is out tomorrow. Sonic
Mhm.
came out this week. Sonic is amazing. It's probably the best Sonic in years. Halo Infinite got its season 5 drop this week.
Mhm.
It's just, man, it's just gaming, man. Hashtag gaming. What could you say? We have, let's see, Drawn TJ dropped an additional, very generous $2 super chat and says, bring back Blur and Prototype and True Crime. And I know he wrote here Blue, but I know he's a driving
Blur,
fanatic.
yeah.
He meant Blur, and Blur is dope. I sanction that. And Double X Wolverine Double X drops an additional, very generous $2 super chat and says Walmart will be downsizing their game sections. Yeah, unfortunately, they've already said that they're going
They
to
all
stop
are.
carrying
Mhm.
physical games, and people like Nukem are probably dying inside. But I just think that there's a world where I buy all of my Switch games physical. I just do because I don't trust Nintendo to make everything backwards compatible, which I think the next Switch will be. But to be fair,
Hope
if
so.
you ever had to sell your games, and I don't, thankfully I'm okay. I'm financially okay. But if I ever had to sell my games, I'd at
Those be
least
the
make the money
ones.
back because Switch holds
Yeah,
their value.
for sure.
Steel. Let's talk about Living Split Screen
Ooh,
each and every Saturday, 10 a.m. with Pong Soul, your brother from another. Talk about it. Where can people subscribe? Continue to help you guys grow. Hit that 2-3K. Hopefully, you can get by the end of 2023. You hit 1K with me live on the air. One of my
absolutely.
prouder moments in podcasting, because it's all about
Appreciate that.
helping others. That's what you're supposed to do. That's what we love doing here. Sell the brand. Where can people subscribe to your YouTube channel? And more importantly, reach out to you on social media.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, the beautiful people, I want to thank you for coming out, checking out us right here on X Vlog Live. Hopefully, we gave you some content that really kind of inspired some thought. We got you excited for what's going on. But every Saturday morning, I am a co-host of a platform known as Living Split Screen, non-console centric. We talk about everything going on within the gaming industry. Again, we take that RTS approach, that's real-time strategy. For those familiar, you pull yourself out of the world, you look at the darker crevices of the map, you pull the resources together so you can build up your own foundation. But our focus is reaching those 3 billion gamers that Phil Spencer always talks about. So come check us out there. Usually do about 3 to 5 hours worth of content there, just because we just love talking about what's going on. And we come from so many different angles, get the chat involved. We just love the community and the way they get involved. So it's always a great time to be there. But yeah, check us out every Saturday, 9 a.m. Central, 10 a.m. Eastern, and 3 p.m. UK time. That's Living Split Screen. And you can find me Steel Rain. That T is a 7 everywhere. Google is probably the easiest place. All my information comes up that way. But Xbox is the main ecosystem. It works so well in tandem between the console and the PC, and my phone, actually, which is it's just a blessing, man. I couldn't imagine that we were going to be here 10 years ago, and I'm one of the probably younger ones in the generation, right? So nonetheless, thank you guys for coming out. Stay safe out there. Have a fantastic rest of your work week if that's what you got going on, and much energy to you. Appreciate you, Boom. Much love.
Yes, absolutely. Real quick, Sin in the chat. Welcome, brother. Nice to see you as always. He says revive Bizarre Creations and then give them a go at Forza. No. This is what I say. You keep Motorsport, you keep Horizon, and you bring back Project Gotham as a third one by Bizarre Creations, recreated, re-put together, potentially somehow. I mean, listen, it's just a dream. Who knows? But listen, I wanted to say this. Thank you so much for all the super chats, all the channel memberships. They do allow for us to do the big giveaways. We do have another $500 giveaway coming up in the first week of November. That is Mrs. Boom's birthday bash. Her birthday, you guys and gals get the prizes. And of course, the one big one, we'll do a lot of advertising the minute December starts, because we want everyone to be there. Mrs. Boom and I, and this is on her request. She said last year we gave away 1,000. She says, Craig, can we do better this year? And I said, well, let's look at the finances. And we both came to the determination that because the world kind of sucks right now, people might be in need of a little extra help. So what we're doing to give back to the community that consistently gives so much to us, we are so blessed, it's crazy. We are giving away in 2 hours the most we've ever given away at any one time, and that is $1,500 worth of gift cards for the sixth annual Christmas with Mr. and Mrs. Boomstick. We're giving away 10 $100 gift cards, and we're giving away 2 grand prizes of $250 gift cards times 2. That's your $1,500. And here's the other kicker, and haven't seen any other people do this. If you are someone that lives outside of the Americas, let's say, for instance, you live in South Africa. Let's say, for instance, you live on the other side of the pond in London. We will, in fact, honor your prize winning by sending you the money via only PayPal. Just because you live outside the States, it's not fair not to support you when you support us. So if you are outside of the country, and you can't get your standard GameStop gift card or your your PSN or your Nintendo Switch or whatever. And I said GameStop. Let me just scratch that. No GameStop. It's three platforms. You'd get it to. You'd get it for Xbox. You get it for PlayStation, or you get it for Nintendo. Do with the gift card as you will. We just want to make sure that everyone that supports the channel, even if you're outside of the Americas, that we support you in turn. And we will, in fact, pay all transfer fees and all denomination differences. So if you like, for instance, you're in the UK and your money is worth a little bit more, we will, of course, you pay for nothing. We pay for everything. You
Super dope.
won, you won. But with that said, folks, I'm going to close out the show with something that's incredibly important to me. Hopefully, one day it'll be important to you. And that's something that my dad taught us when we were kids. And he would say, Craig, treat others how you want to be treated. And also, it doesn't cost anything to be nice. You live by those rules, son. I can guarantee you're going to have an awesome day. So take care, everyone. And we'll see you next week on the newest episode of X Vlog Live.